No president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%.
Jared, why does he keep saying that?
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. One of the great things about having this channel is you have a record of things that people say in the past. Everything can't be memory hold here if we cover it. And about a week and a half ago, we did a video where CNN committed a random act of journalism in confronting Joe Biden about the economy. You may remember Erin Burnett pressed Biden about who the people trust more with handling the economy. Poll numbers showed then, as they do now, I believe, that the public trusts Donald Trump more with the economy than they do Joe Biden. In response to that, Biden had this to say. Here are some clips from that interview, just to refresh everybody's memory.
We've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs. And the last I saw, the combination of the inflation, the cost of inflation, all those things, that's really worrisome to people with good reason. No president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned.
Now, Joe Biden's selective memory notwithstanding, this is going to be the topic of the video. Biden's record on the economy. We're going to be talking about what Joe Biden has been doing over and over again in discussing this big lie that he has said constantly concerning inflation and what he inherited from the Trump administration. We're going to do that in the context of an interview conducted by Fox News' Neil Cavuto with the chief of the president's economic advisors, Jared Bernstein. But before we get to all that, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see and hear in this or any other video on the channel, I know that you guys already know what to do with that. You got to smash that thumbs up button. You also got to like and share the show with your friends, all the good stuff that we ask you to do, because all that helps grow the channel through that dreaded YouTube algorithm.
'Cause if you feed me, see my...
Thank you guys so much, as always, for all that you do to help grow the channel. We are closing in on 2,000 subscribers, and that would be done before a year is up since we've been doing This Week in DUMBmocracy on the channel. We're less than 140 away from that number. Let's bring it home, guys. Let's get to 2,000 before the end of June. I know that you guys can do that. And by the way, for all you newbies finding the channel, I hope that this video earns that subscription as we talk about Biden's constant fabrication. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but his constant fabrication about inflation, which remains a main issue going into the 2024 election. Now, by no means is the big lie about inflation the only mistruth that the Biden administration touts when they talk about the strongest economy in the world.
We have the strongest economy in the world.
What we're also talking about are job numbers as well. You may have heard me say before that jobs created does not equal jobs recovered, and that the Biden administration has been talking about jobs recovered from the pandemic as jobs created by the administration. We've talked about that in the past, but we're going to focus this video on Biden's recent comments concerning inflation and what he inherited from the previous administration and what he did to bring it down. The numbers just don't add up, as you'll see from Neil Cavuto, who does a really good job of pressing Jared Bernstein on this issue.
Speaking of the White House, honored to have my next guest, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Jared Bernstein. You know, Jared, I understand your frustration sometimes when you look at the data and Americans don't buy the data, but they really don't buy the president telling them that they're essentially wrong. It's not that bad.
And by the way, that's never a great tactic to do in a campaign. You don't go around and win elections by telling people they're wrong and you're right. You have to basically pull the Bill Clinton, I feel your pain scenario, and you have to empathize with what they're going through and explain how you're going to make things better. You don't win campaigns, as we said in the video from about a week and a half ago, by saying, listen, Jack, you guys got this whole economic thing all wrong. We're doing great. We have the best economy in the world.
We have the strongest economy in the world.
You don't win that way. That's why Donald Trump is leading in the polls when it comes to the economy, which is usually the number one issue in an election.
So how do you navigate that?
Well, that's not at all what the president tells them. And in fact, yesterday, if you look at his statement, which is on the White House website, on the inflation report, we got a very favorable report from the perspective of the markets today, as you have been reporting correctly. But he pointed out, I think one of his first sentences is, we know families are still struggling with prices that are too high. I mean, this is practically a quote from his statement yesterday. Never will this president blow off the struggles that families like the one he grew up in are going through. Instead, he'll take action to help them through cutting costs, prescription drug, clean energy, housing, child care, junk fees, actively working to lower costs in those areas. So not at all dismissive of America's concerns in that regard, Neil.
That's not half bad.
No, it's all bad.
That's a pretty good answer. I mean, he spun it really well. He pointed to the president's statements and some parts of his record that are positive for the economy. It's a great spin job. It doesn't help you, feel better in your wallet, but it's really good spin. It's a great political stump speech. It's a nice elevator pitch for people concerned about the economy, their own wallets notwithstanding. But Cavuto is a shrewd character, man, and he's going to keep on pressing on this issue.
Well, some might disagree with you on that, but I do want to get behind why the president keeps claiming this. This is what talking about inflation. Take a look.
We have dramatically reduced inflation from 9% down to close to 3%. We're in a situation where we're better situated than we were when we took office. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned. I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%.
Jared, why does he keep saying that? You're his top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it was at 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Ladies and gentlemen, a tap dance.
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently
That's not what I
characterizes
asked you.
as too
That's
high.
not what I asked
Okay,
you.
so
Why does he keep misrepresenting this?
Neil Cavuto does not suffer fools on his show. He wants direct answers to direct questions. Why is the president saying that he inherited a 9% inflation rate at the beginning of his administration when in actuality it was more than 7 points below that? Jared Bernstein is trying to spin here. Cavuto's not going to let him.
He's making the point that the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office.
No,
I think
that's
it was
not what he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually get to 9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of the matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
That's how you do it.
This is why I really like Neil Cavuto. He's a bulldog when it comes to getting to the point that he wants to make. What the hell is Biden thinking?
I don't know what the hell he's thinking.
Who's feeding him this information about 9% back in 2021 when he took office? It didn't get to that point until I think it was 2022, around that time, and then it started coming down. We're still more than double the inflation rate that Joe Biden inherited back in 2021. And we've been on a roller coaster. That got up to over 9% at one point and then came back down to 3%. But nonetheless, it's still more than double what he inherited. So, Jared, what's the deal here, yo?
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was, in fact, about 9%. And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
no,
look,
it wasn't. It was not. It was not at that.
Let's look at the chart. And again, Cavuto just just pissing all over Jared Bernstein's numbers here. Look what it was in January of 2021. It was like 1.4%. In June of 2022, it was at its peak, and now it's more than double what it was when he inherited office. So, what's the answer here? The answer is there is no answer. Joe Biden is flat out wrong. He is at best flubbing the numbers and not remembering because of his feeble mind and feeble body that we've talked about ad nauseum here on this channel. And at worst, he's knowing that he's passing off a falsehood, trying to make his record look better, trying to fudge some numbers here, the way that Jared Bernstein is trying to spin it. Well, it wasn't technically at 9%, but all the factors were there for it to grow to 9% from the previous administration because of all the money giveaways and all the money spent and all the printing of money during the pandemic. And while all that may be valid points, it's still a lie. It's still a lie to say that inflation was 9% when I inherited office, and look at what I've done. I got it down to 3%. What ended up happening was Joe Biden ended up causing a problem. It went up to 9%, and then he started fixing his own problem. And by the way, folks, you don't get extra credit for fixing your own problems and still have the problem be double what it was when you started. It just doesn't work that way.
So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high, it got as high as 9%? You'd be accurate in saying that, and we have now brought it down, and we're struggling in around the 3% area. But it's better than it was. But instead, to hang it on his predecessor, that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID. It just seems to the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're lying. Neil. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared. And you're.
Cavuto's not letting this go. This is turning into a disaster for the Biden campaign. This clip will be shared out everywhere in Republican circles talking about the economy. This is the Biden administration not providing a straight answer. And the American people deserve a straight answer. What the hell happened with our economy? There is an answer there for the Biden administration to make and for the Biden campaign to utilize to say that, listen, all these numbers were baked into the cake when we transitioned from Trump to Biden because of what happened during the pandemic. And yes, the inflation rate rose sharply in the first half of the administration, but look what we've done to fix that and give us credit for that. They can use that answer. In fact, some people might actually buy that answer, especially people who are more likely to vote for Biden. They'll go along with that. It's something for them to hang their hat on. But that's not what's happening here. He's sticking to the numbers and he's not sticking to the numbers, I should say. He's sticking to the president's interpretation of the numbers and trying to fit a square peg in a very, very small pinhole. And it's not working here. This is emblematic of what Biden has been doing on many issues. He double speaks, he talks around issues, and he makes up his own facts. He's not entitled to his own facts, only to his own opinion.
You're a very smart guy with this stuff. You could just whisper, and he's a good friend of yours, obviously thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even, in fact, call him Joe. That's how close you are. And look, say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact
truth.
that inflation.
The American people care about truth, Jared.
Hold on, Neil.
I don't know what is Jared's major malfunction here. Just say it. We all know it's true. We saw the graphic on the screen. We all know what the truth is. Just say it. Get it out there, and then make your point and do your spin. You can say the president has been misspeaking on the issue, and maybe we'll get back to that. I think American people would be happier if you say, you know what? I am going to tell the president not to say that anymore because it isn't true. And here's what I'm going to tell him to say and give a cogent, concise response to what the president's actual record is here. But instead, Jared Bernstein is just talking around it, spinning like a top, man.
Neil, this only works if you let me talk, okay?
You haven't answered my question. I've asked it 5 times. Five ways.
It's true.
The president was making the point that the factors that caused inflation were in place when he took office, and that's unequivocally true.
All right.
I take your point, and we can have we can go on all day back and forth on this. I think what matters today is, are we making progress on lowering costs as well as lowering inflation? You know.
And right here, you see Cavuto's given up. He knows he's not going to get this guy to say what the reality is. He's just resigned to the fact that Jared Bernstein's going to keep on spinning till he can't spin no more. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. What you just witnessed from Jared Bernstein on Neil Cavuto's show is what I like to call agenda gymnastics. It's a topic that I devote a whole chapter to in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. The agenda gymnast is chasing the dragon. They're chasing a goal, and they don't care how they get to it, what principles they have to compromise to get there, what spin they have to do to get to the point of convincing someone. They are chasing the win rather than reality. In this particular case, Jared Bernstein is spinning the reality of what he wished Joe Biden had said. That Joe Biden had said that we inherited an economy where it was baked into the numbers that there was going to be high inflation during our administration. And we fought it off as best we could. We stemmed it off as best we could. Yes, it got high in 2022, but look at where it is now. We are down 2/3 from that peak, and we're continuing to work at it. And we understand that this is an issue for the American people. If Joe Biden would have been saying that, he wouldn't look like a buffoon now. Instead, he chose a narrative that was plucked out of thin air, plucked out of a storybook, saying, hey, Jack, we have the best economy in the world,
We have the strongest economy in the world.
And we inherited a really bad hand from the previous administration where inflation was 9%. It's bullshit. But now people like Bernstein in his administration and on his campaign have to do damage control because, again, the goal is to get Joe Biden reelected. You can't do that with statements like this on the record without trying to justify what he really meant. And as we're on the subject here, how many times have we talked about the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre, other advisors, correcting what Biden said to turn it into, well, he actually meant A, B, and C. We've seen it for the past 4 years, people. This is what Joe does. He doesn't live in the same world that we live in. He has his own little pocket dimension where facts bend to his will. He gets to say whatever the hell he wants to. He gets to make up stories about how his sons passed away, what happened with that kitchen fire to compare it to what happened in Maui. All kinds of things in Joe's reality don't make sense when they're held up to even the minimal amount of scrutiny. So this is what we're dealing with, and this is why Donald Trump is winning on the economy without even campaigning. He's in court right now. He was listening to Michael Cohen lie and talk about how he stole $30,000 from his company. And in the meantime, he's still winning in the polls in issues like the economy and other issues. And that's why he's winning. The last time we checked from those New York Times numbers, that he's still winning in many of the battleground states, in some cases, about half of them, beyond the margin of error. Joe Biden needs to get control of himself. His campaign needs to get control of him, and they need to have a reality check. They need to come to Jesus meeting with Joe Biden. Stick to the facts, stick to the numbers, stick to the approved narrative, and hopefully we can convince the American people and fool them again that you're not really the buffoon that we all know that you have been for decades now.
Stranger things have happened.
Listen, that's just my opinion on the whole situation. I want to know what you guys think about all this. What do you think about Joe Biden's misremembering of inflation and what it was when he took office? Is it intentional? Is it a doddering old fool? Let's talk about that in the comments. And as always, please like and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Let's get in the comments together. I'll be in there all day with you to discuss this video, along with all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumbmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.